Part 1. The paper on my fridge. My name is Iris Coleman. 62. This brick house went up by our hands, mine and Harold's, one payday at a time. 6 months ago, my son Miles called from a parking lot. "Mom, I'm laid off." Avery. "Lost her contract. We just need a place for a few weeks." I turned on the porch light and made up the spare room. That night I set out towels and a clean mug like a hotel. Week 1 looked harmless. Avery smiled, stacked plates, called me Mama C. By week 2 she was organizing. Pots moved to the highest shelf. My towels boxed, hers hung in the bathroom. Labels on every jar. When I asked why, she tapped her phone. Flow. On Monday morning, a sheet of printer paper rode my cherry magnet in neat block letters. Kitchen, Iris, 7:15, 8:15 a.m., 1:45 to 2:45 p.m. Laundry, Wednesdays only. Living room, Frysat, reserved for Miles and Avery. Curfew. After 8 p.m., Iris stays in her room. I peeled the paper off and carried it to their door. Avery opened in a silk robe. Miles blinked behind her. I held up the list like a parking ticket. "This is my house." Miles lifted both hands. "Ma, it's just structure." I set an alarm and lived by their timer. Friday night, the living room filled with perfume and laughter. My rocker got shoved against the wall. A gray sectional took center stage. "We bought it with savings," Avery said. I recognized the word. My pension. I'd floated to get them over the hump. Lists multiplied. Extra bullets. Coordinate kitchen outside assigned windows. No radio mornings. Iris knocks before entering common areas. Not structure. Occupation. At Tartupa at 11 a.m. On a quiet Wednesday, I slipped out for a slice of bread. No lights. Moon on tile. My hand closed on the fridge handle. The door snapped shut on my fingers. Sharp, fast. Avery stood between me and the appliance like a bouncer. "We've talked about access," she whispered. Footsteps on the stairs. Miles. "Ma, please. It's late." "Just follow the rules." I looked at my son and saw a man who wanted the argument to disappear. I turned, went to my room, and pulled. Harold's battered ledger from the dresser. Page 1. Time, noise level, exact words, who stood where. I logged the kitchen schedule, the new couch, the no radio line. Receipts into a manila folder. Facts, not speeches. The second crack hid in the bathroom mirror. I loosened the top clip to wipe behind it. A manila envelope slid down the drywall. Blue stamp. Danvers and Reed, attorneys. Inside, copies of a care agreement naming me, a durable power of attorney. Miles had supposedly signed to Avery, language granting them lifetime occupancy rights upon incapacity of the owner, and a version of my signature with a looped I I've never used. I photographed every page with my ancient flip phone, retaped the envelope, and logged it in the ledger. Date, contents, page count, spelling errors. No shouting, no pleading. Starve the fire. I packed before dawn. Clothes for a week, deed and birth certificate, Harold's hammer, the shoebox of letters, 3 photographs that matter. Keys on a cord around my neck. On the hall table, I left a single sheet in my handwriting. Taxes due next month. Utilities on the 15th. Furnace service in October. Timers don't pay bills. I see. I took my cherry magnet, petty, mine, and closed the door without a click. The bus heater breathed on my knees. The city went by. The lumber yard where Harold charmed discounts. The diner with blue tile. The paint store that knew our trim color by heart. At a Gloria Martin's house, the porch light was already on. I didn't have to knock twice. Kitchen, she said. Then the plan. At her table, we built a different list. People I trust, accounts that matter, what stays, what can go. I showed her the mirror envelope photos. Her mouth went thin. She texted her nephew, Reuben, the one who handles messes with deeds and last names. Reuben arrived with a legal pad and a square jaw. He studied the photos, circled a date. They can't force you to house them, he said. A forged signature is a crime. We could file for eviction tomorrow. My advice? Not yet. Block their numbers. Say nothing. Let the bills introduce themselves. We blocked Miles and Avery. I kept the bank and doctor clear. We waited. The messages still found paths. Unknown numbers. Mom, where are you? Iris, this is childish. The water's off? How do we? County tax bill came. You have responsibilities. I logged each voicemail. Timestamp, phrasing, volume, threat level. Mrs. Ware Whitaker. From my block ran into Gloria at the market. News traveled fast as coupons. Lights off at night. Buckets from the neighbor's spigot. Avery cursing at a shut-off notice. Ramen stacked where the organic blends used to go. Miles walking the dog in the dark so no one would see the yard. Day 21, a certified letter reached Gloria's mailbox. Return to fulfill familial obligations. Or face appropriate steps. Reuben read it, flicked the corner. No standing. Keep it for your file. For the first time in months, I slept past sunrise. Day 30, Mrs. Whitaker called with a headline voice. She left. Suitcases. A door slam that carried. Parting shot, repeated twice on the sidewalk. You can't even keep a roof over my head. The house went quiet except for unpaid envelopes. 5 days later, Gloria's intercom buzzed. It's Miles, she mouthed. I finished my tea. Let him in. He stood smaller than I remember, stubble uneven, shirt wrinkled. He didn't reach for a hug. He sat when I pointed. Mom, he said. One word, no speech. Good. I kept it on rails. Conditions, I said. Otherwise we don't talk. He nodded like a man who finally sees the invoice instead of the dream. We set a neutral spot. The coffee shop by the courthouse. And a time. I called Reuben. We drafted something that wasn't forgiveness and wasn't vengeance. It was a contract someone could actually follow. $200, symbolic rent, auto deposit to a savings account in Miles's name for first last month elsewhere. All utilities switched to him within 10 days. Weekly photo proof, meter reads, rooms, mailbox with paid notices, mandatory counseling, attendance verified. Any breach? 10 days to vacate? Locks changed? No debate. Thursday he read with shaking hands and signed. I kept my keys. I didn't go home. Outside, the sun was clean and cold. The cherry magnet sat warm in my pocket like a coin from a fair. Behind me, my refrigerator held only one thing I left on purpose. Space. Ahead, 6 more parts and a lockdown plan. Part 2, 10 days, no debates. Reuben slid the signed agreement into a red folder and tapped the cover. Now we verify. That afternoon I walked to the bank, opened a hum separate savings. For Miles's rent autopay, then to the post office for a PO box. I filed a Mott fraud alert with the credit bureaus and handed the clerk a neat stack: driver's license, deed copy, utility account numbers. Freeze anything opened without me, I said. Box key warm in my palm. I headed to the precinct. At the front desk, I asked for financial crimes. Detective. Ray Bennett. Listened while I laid out the mirror envelope, the looped I that isn't mine, the law firm stamp. She photographed my photos, called the firm, and raised an eyebrow when the receptionist said, "No such client file." Bennett's card went into my ledger. "If you find the originals, don't touch. Call me," she said. C3. Miles texted 3 photos: gas meter, electric meter, kitchen counters cleared, a receipt for the water reconnection. Counseling intake scheduled Friday. I logged each item and sent 1 sentence back. Received. Keep going. Day 7. I rode past the house on the bus. The porch bulbs worked. A contractor's magnet sat on the mailbox. Furnace service. OCT. 15. My rocker visible through the window. Not in exile. I didn't get off. Day 10. The agreement required utilities switched. Reuben checked the records. Gas and electric were now in Miles's name. We kept the 10-day breach clause. Printed on bright paper at the front of my folder. "If he slips," Reuben said, "you call the locksmith. I'll cue the notice." The Sistan arrived early. Friday night, my neighbor Mrs. Whitaker called Gloria. Cars out front. Loud music. I opened my ledger and the contract. Fridays were not forbidden if noise stayed low. At 10:02 p.m. My phone lit with a photo from Miles. Living room empty, TV off, timestamp clear. Then a second photo. Front yard with plates visible. He'd learned. I wrote, "Compliant." Next to the date. Day 14. Counseling form with a stamp. 1 line in a tight hand. Patient exhibits enabling patterns, avoidance, financial passivity, plan, weekly sessions, accountability tools. I didn't cheer. I filed it. Day 17. I met Detective Bennett at my house. Miles left the spare key in a lockbox like we agreed. We went straight to the bathroom. I pried the mirror clip with a butter knife. The envelope was still there, but heavier. Inside, along with the bad copies, sat 2 notarized originals of the care agreement and a Paufresh Tsar's power of attorney in Avery's handwriting, notary stamp smudged. Bennett photographed everything, called the notary number. "Stolen stamp," came the answer. Bennett sealed the stack in a bag. "This just became a case," she said, crisp. "We'll issue a warrant for Avery's phone records and contact Danvers and Reed. Sit tight and don't contact her." I called Reuben on the porch. "We escalate," he said. "File a trespass warning. Through PD for Avery. If she steps onto your property, she leaves with an escort." Day 19. Miles sent the first rent Sarn $200 into his savings per the automatic transfer. He also sent a screenshot of utilities auto-pay confirmations and a list titled Maintenance, Week 3, Tighten porch rail, replace smoke detectors, patch drywall seam in hall. I replied with a single line, "Add gutter, clean to October." Day 21. A letter arrived at my P.O. box from the Danvers and Reed. "We have no knowledge of any agreement involving your property. A staff seal was reported missing in June." I took the letter to Bennett. She nodded. "Good. Chain of custody tight." That afternoon, the doorbell at Gloria's rang. Avery. On the step, oversized sunglasses, jaw set. Gloria didn't open the gate. "Iris doesn't live here," she said. Avery flicked a business card through the bars. "Tell her to call me or I'll take steps." Gloria slid the card back with her shoe. "Tell your steps to the detective." The door shut. I logged the encounter and texted Bennett the timestamp from Gloria's camera. Day 24. Miles sent before-after photos of the hallway seam patched and painted, plus a receipt for Psycho, furnace service. Scheduled on the 15th. Counseling attendance number 2 attached. 1 extra photo. My rocker back at the window with Harold's hair. Old wool throw folded square. Nobody wrote an essay. We weren't doing essays. Day 27. Breach. At 6:42 a.m., I received a past due notice snapshot. Electric bill unpaid due to a failed card update. The agreement allowed Sykesy 48 hours to cure. I noted the time and said, 48 hours. Send proof. He did it in 5. New card on file, confirmation number, paid. I initialed the ledger. Cured. Day 29. Detective Bennett called. We traced Avery's email. She sent copies of the care agreement to a payday lender and a boutique remodeler. The lender flagged it. The remodeler didn't. Bennett had already put a hold through the bank's fraud unit. If anyone shows up to start work, call 911. They did. 2 men with a tape measure and a clipboard came to survey for the kitchen tear-out. Miles kept the door closed and called me. I called Bennett and Rubin. Patrol arrived in 8 minutes. The clipboard man left without a word. Rubin filed a cease and desist to the remodeler with our police report attached. The men didn't return. Day 30. We executed the clause nobody believes you'll use. Miles wrote, Avery texted she's coming by to pick up clothes. Our trespass warning was live. I drove to the corner, parked where the camera could see the curb, and waited. Avery pulled up with a friend and tried the porch. Miles didn't open the door. She started to yank on the handle. I stepped to the walk and said, Trespass warning filed. Leave. She spit a word that used to sting and reached for the knob again. I dialed. Patrol came, calm and plain. She left in a hurry. I didn't shake. Rubin met me at the locksmith at noon. We changed both exterior locks, logged the key numbers, updated the lockbox code, and filed the change with the agreement addendum. Miles signed receipt of 2 keys. I kept the 3rd with my deed. With the front stabilized, we went hunting for the back doors. I closed every MyFace leak, moved my insurance to paper sent to the P.O. box, removed Miles's authorized user status from my credit card, stripped all autopays from my accounts, and set a standing police watch request for any contractor claiming my authorization without a written P.O. My ledger grew a new tab. Vectors Avery used, with subtabs. Money, mail, men. Day 33. Miles sent a photo of the she counselor's homework. A printed routine, budget numbers, 3 job applications submitted, clock-in times from his current shift. He added a short line. Staying busy keeps me out of holes. I underlined budget and wrote a note for Sunday. Teach envelope system. Show him Harold's cash board. Day 35. The furnace tech sticker went up on the unit. Filter replaced. Carbon monoxide tester beeped green. Miles texted the invoice and a picture of the thermostat at Sakgar 68. The house looked like a house again. Day 37. Bennett called. We've issued a warrant for Avery on forgery and attempted theft by deception. If she contacts you, do not respond. I wrote, Warrant afa, in red ink, and closed the notebook. Day 40. I stood on my own porch again. Not to move back, yet, but to inspect under contract. Miles opened the door, stepped aside. He didn't apologize, didn't perform. He handed me a folder. Paid bills, photos, counseling notes, maintenance receipts. We walked the rooms clockwise. Smoke detectors chirped clean. The rocker was exactly right. In the bathroom, I lifted the mirror, empty behind it except for bare drywall and 2 new screws. I used anchors, Miles said, so it doesn't slip anymore. On the kitchen counter sat a laminated checklist. Filters, meters, mail, locks. I didn't smile. I checked boxes with a pen. On the porch, I changed the lockbox code in front of him and read the clause again. Any breach, 10 days? No debates. He nodded once like a man who understands the price of forgetting. I put the cherry magnet back on my refrigerator. Not holding a schedule. Holding nothing. That was the point. I left the house, closed the door soft, and looked at the next line in my ledger. October, gutters, porch rail, insurance audit. November, roof estimate. December, decision. 6 parts left, all business. The part 3, warrants, storms, and the audit. Detective Bennett called at 7:03 a.m. Warrant is active. Avery's phone just pinged near Maple Pond. Sit tight. I wrote the time in my ledger, then drove to the house for the Friday checklist. Miles had the porch light on, invoices ready, coffee already poured into a to-go cup I didn't ask for. We worked clockwise. Gutters, outlets, smoke detectors. At the mailbox, a thin white envelope. Waited. Insurance audit, occupancy and safety review. Scheduled for next Thursday. I circled the date. Paper only, I told Miles. No tours unless I'm present. He nodded and slid the envelope into a clear sleeve. By noon, Reuben texted, "Court set tentative for 30 days if DA files promptly. Keep chain of custody tight." At 2 p.m., the Furnace Tech sticker matched the invoice. At 4 p.m., the sky greened the way it does before trouble. Weather radio barked, severe thunderstorm warning. I taped the porch rail temporarily with a brace, wrote permanent fix in the book, and went back to Gloria's before the wind hit. The storm arrived at 6:12, lashing rain sideways. Power flickered. I waited out the worst with candle stubs and Gloria's cards on the table. At 8:40, Miles texted a photo of a wet ceiling bubble. Over the hall seam. Turn off the breaker for that zone. Bucket. Tarp if safe, I replied. He sent back a time-stamped video. Breaker off, bucket in place, tarp strung from ladder to doorway like a tent. Good, I wrote. Don't poke the bubble. At 9:05, a van rolled up in the rain. Unmarked. And 2 men banged on the door. Insurance sent us for emergency tear-out, one yelled. Miles kept the chain latched and asked for the site's work order number. They didn't have it. He filmed their faces and the plates. I called Bennett and Reuben. Patrol arrived in 6 minutes. The van eased away without a claim. I logged the time and moved roof estimate to urgent. Saturday morning, the storm blew out. I met Keller Roofing. At 8 hours sharp with their license number printed and checked against the state website. Keller shot the roof with a drone and found a lifted ridge cap and 2 shingles torn clean. Temporary patch, $180. Full ridge cap replacement and a small section reshingle, $980. I booked both for Monday and photographed every page. Miles hauled the wet drywall section down after I scored it. We bagged it, weighed it, and placed it by the curb per code. No demo parties, no emergency tear-outs. Bennett called at noon. We picked Avery up at Maple Pond trying to sell a notary stamp and a bag of cell phones. She had a printed care agreement with your name. She's in holding. I underlined holding twice and kept moving. Drama is a trap. Step over it. The key audits came Thursday. A woman named Catherine Liu, in a navy blazer, badge in a lanyard, tablet in a leather case. I met her at the door with a folder. Smoke detector receipts, furnace service, wiring inspection from last year, occupancy affidavit. She asked to see the hallway. I led her to the patch. Cut clean, fan running, moisture meter reading 13%. Roof repairs completed Monday. Invoice attached, I said. She checked outlets with a plug tester, photographed the water heater expansion tank, and scanned the fire extinguisher tag. Efficient, she said. I didn't smile. I initialed her checklist, and she left in 12 minutes flat. Reduced risk rating posted to the portal that afternoon. That night, Miles sent numbers, paycheck stubs, envelope budget, rent fund, utilities, food, repair, 3 job applications, counseling notes. On Sunday, I brought Harold's cash board, 4 old cigar boxes with labels and rubber bands. We sat at the kitchen table. No speeches. I showed him how the ledger meets the envelopes and how the envelopes dictate the week. He wrote amounts, sealed bands, and placed the boxes in the upper pantry behind the flour bin. Don't move them, I said. If you run short, you cut food wants first, entertainment second, never utilities. He nodded like a man given a map that isn't pretty, but gets you out. 2 days later, a registered letter landed in my P.O. box. State versus Avery Rhodes, arraignment. Set for the 14th. I called Reuben. We'll attend and say nothing, he said. Presence matters. In the meantime, the house needed things. We replaced the porch rail permanently, sanded the splintered step, and hit the whole deck with 2 coats of e-oil stain. Miles pulled the stove and found a 1/4 inch of grease left from before Avery's flow. He degreased, re-leveled, and took a photo of a stove that finally sat even. On arraignment day. I wore black slacks and a jacket with pockets deep enough for my ledger. Reuben met me on the courthouse steps with a thin brief and a calm face. Inside, the judge ran through the calendar like a metronome. Avery. Shuffled in cuffed, jaw set, sunglasses gone. The DA read charges: forgery, attempted theft by deception, possession of stolen notarial instrument. Avery's attorney asked for release. The judge set strict conditions: no contact, GPS, surrender passport. When the judge asked for victims present, I stood, nothing theatrical, and gave my name. Noted, he said, and moved on. On the steps, Avery tried to catch my eye as deputies steered her to the elevator. I looked past her to the clock and wrote, 10:42 a.m. No words exchanged. Back at the house, I hung a new laminated emergency card. By the fridge. Shutoffs, breaker map, insurer claim number, Bennett's card, Reuben's office, and a do not open pocket for receipts. The cherry magnet held nothing but a spare pen. That's what a fridge is for. The Connext breach test came quietly. A boutique kitchen company emailed a final design confirmation to my old address, Marble Island, Full Gut, signed homeowner Iris C. Reuben traced it. Avery had sent them the forged agreement pre-storm. We faxed the SOT police report and say cease and desist again. I called Catherine Liu. She flagged my policy for contractor scams. The company withdrew and added Avery to their internal fraud list. I added the event to my tab. Vectors used, men. Miles kept stacking proof. Attendance slips, time clock screenshots, bank balance creeping up. The rent fund, envelope crossed, $1,200. He returned a borrowed ladder to Mr. Whitaker with a thank you note and a 6-pack of the soda the old man likes. I logged it under neighbors, credit repaired. On Saturday, I tested him. Roof estimate number 2, I said. Independent check. He booked Soto and Sons for Tuesday, sent their license ahead, and verified insurance. Soto's drone matched Keller's footage within 2 degrees. Price within $40. He chose Keller for the scheduled warranty. I approved. No indecision, no arm waving. Sunday dinner stayed short and square. Pan chicken, green beans, canned peaches. Miles ate, washed, dried, stacked, and put a brown envelope by my elbow. Rent fund deposit slip plus utilities. No apology, no history speech. He left at 7 with the porch light on a new timer set to dusk to midnight. The sign. Called Monday. We're adding an attempted home improvement fraud count, the assistant said. Your documentation is unusually clean. I flipped to the front of the ledger and wrote a fresh line. January, restraining order review. February, civil damages assessment. March, sell, rent, or stay. Decisions need dates. On a sign. Inspection Thursday. I met Miles with a clipboard and a new habit. Before I stepped inside, I read the contract aloud. $200 symbolic rent to savings. Utilities in your name. Weekly proofs. Counseling. Any breach. 10 days. Locks changed. He answered each line with yes. Not I will. Not I plan to. Yes. We toured. Patch dry. Ridge cap tight. Gutters flushed. Lint trap cleared. Attic hatch resealed with weather strip and screws. I clicked the padlock on the backyard gate and handed him a spare key tagged yard. No one through here without both of us, I said. At 3:20 p.m., a text from Bennett. Avery violated no contact. DM to a neighbor about you. GPS shows a drive-by last night. We're moving to revoke bail. I printed the message and slid it under Kaugs, court. Reuben filed our affidavit. By evening, a warrant reissued. Avery back in county lockup. Before midnight. I wrote one sentence and shut the book. Threat contained. For now. I ended the week on my porch with a pencil, the smell of fresh stain, and a list for next month. Locks. Reeky shed. Update codes. Mail. Permanent redirect to P.O. Box. Shred old forward. Insurance. Add water sensor riders. Install 2. Finance. Close dormant credit line. Confirm freezes. Roof. Register warranty. Drone recheck in 90 days. Miles. Savings target $3,000. Apartment scouting. Strict radius. No co-signing. I set the pencil down and looked through the front window. The fridge door reflected the room like a calm lake. No schedules taped to it. No rules written by guests. Just my checklist. And a magnet shaped like a cherry holding a pen that writes clean. Shinger Part 4, Moving Lines and Court Lines. I started the month with a drill in my hand and a list on the counter. 2 water sensors. Under the sinks, one by the water heater, all tied to my phone. Shed lock rekeyed. New code cards printed and signed. Mail permanently redirected to the P.O. Box. The old forward killed. Reuben closed my dormant store card and confirmed the A. Credit freeze. Chain tight. Miles showed up Sunday with a spiral notebook, and the rental sites already filtered. Target, $3,000 saved. Radius, bus line, grocery, clinic, no cosign, I said. He wrote it clean. We split tasks. He'd tour 3 places midweek. I'd pull county records and eviction histories on the addresses and run landlord complaints through the court portal. We aren't guessing men. We check. Tuesday. First apartment was a scam. Application fee, cash only. He walked. Second had mold blooming behind a couch. He took a photo of the spore like a crime scene and left. Third was a maybe. Upstairs corner, real lease, real manager, smoke alarms chirping like they should. I called the manager while Miles stood in the stairwell. No cosigners, I said. He has income, counseling letters, on-time utilities. The manager asked for references. I handed him Mrs. Whitaker, property quiet, Catherine Liu, insurance audit passed, and Soto and Sons. Contractor, pays his invoices. He exhaled into the phone. Most folks give me cousins. Wednesday night. A flyer appeared on my porch, a photo of my house and a headline. Elder abuse? Look closer. The body copy screamed, controlling matriarch, anonymous source AR. I slid the paper into a sleeve, texted Detective Bennett, and called Reuben. Smear, he said. Answer with facts. Miles arrived with a stapler and a face like someone swallowed a tack. I gave him a job instead of a speech. Packet the timeline. Attach detective's cards, the insurance letter, utility switches, rent slips, no adjectives. We printed 10 and handed them to the block with a line. If anyone knocks about me, call Bennett. The flyers died by morning. Facts suck the oxygen from gossip. Friday, 8:30 a.m. We were in courtroom 4B for Avery's bail violation hearing. She came in wrists cuffed, orange scrubs, hair scraped tight. The DA walked through the forged papers, the contractor angle, the neighbor DM, the drive-by. Bennett's body cam stills hit the screen. Avery at my gate. Avery pointing at the lock. The patrol car's dash clock. The judge didn't raise his voice. Bail revoked. No contact order extended 1 year. GPS restriction to county. Sheriff took her by the elbow. Done. I wrote, revocation, 10:02, and left. No head turns, no last looks. Back home, I changed the lockbox code. Again, and signed the new code card with Miles. We reset the porch camera zones and added a small siren to the side gate as a bark that means, do not. I registered the roof warranty and set a 90-day drone recheck on my calendar. The house stopped flinching. Miles hit 2,400 by the third week. Envelope boxes full, rubber bands neat. We prepped for the cash move test. I made him a checklist. Utilities transfer, renter's insurance proof, keys receipt, lease copy, walkthrough photos, appliance serials. He stuck the list on his phone case. Sunday night, he came with a roll of tape and a joke I didn't buy. I handed him Harold's furniture sliders. Instead, work beats nerves. Monday, walk through. Manager unlocked the door. We photographed every corner, every scratch, the angle of light on the floor. Miles set a cheap lamp in the living room, plugged a phone charger into each outlet to test current, ran water hot and cold. I took pictures of the cereal plates on the stove and the fridge and emailed both to my P.O. box with the subject, Miles, Lease, Cereals. He signed. The keys clinked like a small verdict. We kept momentum. He scheduled internet and electric. I filed his renter's policy in my binder under FI, adult, Miles, apartment. We borrowed Mr. Whitaker's dolly and reserved Gertie's truck by noon Saturday. I wrote the load order on a sticky. Heavy low, boxes labeled on 2 sides, last and first out. Mattress, linens, kettle, 1 pan, light bulbs, toilet paper, trash bags, coffee. You start in a place by boiling water. Harold insisted on that, and he was right. Saturday morning, the block watched. We moved like a crew that's done this before. Couch wrapped, rocker left here, obviously. Miles carried the envelope boxes last. At the new place, he hung 1 photo, a cheap print of the river, then built a shelf, set up the cash board in the pantry, and stacked towels like a catalog. He texted me at 5:12. Done. No cosign. Keys in my pocket. Back at the house, I ran a finger along the now bare hallway shelf. Quiet. Gloria brought lemonade and a look that meant we'd reached a shoreline. I opened my ledger and moved the tab from Harushaim. Boundaries T. Civil. Reuben met me Monday with a yellow folder. We can file for Harushaim. Restitution. Locks, service calls, time, fraud defense fees. We'll keep it clean and predictable. We drafted the demand. Receipts, hours at a fair rate, miles, certified postage, locksmith invoices, furnace, drone roof shots, no pain and suffering paragraphs, judges like math. The civil hearing docketed for 60 days out. Bennett said criminal would take longer, but with the PO and the revocation, we had breathing room. I used it. Insurance rider. For water sensors approved. Discount posted. I installed a second siren on the shed and built a HaGo folder by the front door. Deed copy, IDs, meds list, emergency contacts, petty cash, flash drive with PDFs. If the house ever needed to be left again, it wouldn't take a paragraph. It would take a hand and a handle. Miles sent his own proof without pokes. Utility bills paid. Counseling attendance. Work schedule. Budget lines. A photo of the new place's smoke detector test button lit. One extra, a photo of a small table by his door with a bowl for keys and a copy of our lease checklist. Under glass. Ritual beats chaos. 2 boundary checks came like gnats. First, a cousin of Avery's, a man with a friendly grin, knocked offering to finish a kitchen permit. I didn't open the door. All work by written PO only, I said through the camera mic. He drifted away. Second, a church lady. I didn't know pressed a pamphlet about forgiveness into my palm at the grocer's and hinted I might be hard on young wives. I smiled at the tomatoes and said, "Forgiveness without boundaries writes checks I refuse to cash." She blinked and chose apples. At Sykes, 90 days. We flew the drone again. Ridge straight, patch true, gutters clear. I wrote. Roof, hold. Catherine Liu emailed the insurance discount confirmation. The house had graduated from crisis to maintenance, from iScam magnet to locked system. On the calendar, I drew 3 boxes. January, protective order renewal review. February, civil demand filed. March, decision. Sell, rent, or stay. I don't run on feelings. I run on quarters. I sat at the kitchen table, set the cherry magnet on the fridge where it can hold what matters and nothing else, and made the cons. Next list. Call plumber for Conasharum. Pressure regulator. Check. Replace back door strike with long screws and metal box. Teach Miles. Lease math. 40x rule. Emergency fund. Move out buffer. Draft. Letter to block. About contractor scams. Include Bennett's card. Clean out Harold's tool chest. And label every drawer. By evening, the list had 3 check marks. When the doorbell rang, it was Keller Roofing. With the warranty card stamped and a thermographic photo for my file. The crew chief pointed at the print. Tight as a drum. Good, I said, and slid the card into the binder. I turned off the porch light and looked through the window. No schedules taped to my fridge. No names that don't belong in my house. A pen under a cherry, a plan under a clip, and a front door that speaks one language. Locked when it should be, open when I say. Part 5. Mediation tables and title traps. January started with a brass bell. The plumber knocked at 8 sharp. Checked the sun pressure regulator. 95 psi too high. Swapped it and logged 60 psi on the tag. Backdoor strike got. Forkheim. Screws. And a steel box. I labeled Harold's tool chest drawer by drawer. drivers, bits, plumbing tape, electrical. Then typed a one-page contractor scam bulletin for the block with Detective Bennett's card at the bottom. Bennett thanked me and added 2 lines of her own about permits and door-to-door bans. We slid the sheet into every mailbox east of Elm. Reuben called with the civil track. Judge wants mediation. First, clean numbers. No speeches. I pulled receipts and hours, added travel miles and postage, and stapled a cover sheet. Locks, service calls, fraud defense, roof emergency, council time. Math. We met in a beige room with a too-cold vent. Across the table sat Avery's attorney. No Avery. Bail still revoked. He tried a soft open. My client is young. Emotions ran high. Reuben pushed our stack across. We're billing for what happened, not what felt. The mediator squinted at totals, nodded once, and slid us into separate rooms. They came back with 30%. We countered with 80%, and a payment plan that included a confession of judgment if she defaulted. While the mediator walked, I texted Bennett a quick question. She texted back 2 words: hold firm. We settled at new 72% to Carrick on paper that triggers wage garnishment if a check bounces. I initialed each page and left without a victory face. You don't celebrate a fire code, you post it. That afternoon, a new vector tried the back door. Title phishing. An email mimicking my county recorder. Deed change alert. Verify ownership. The link looked real enough for a hurry. I didn't click. I drove to the recorder's office, stood at the counter, and asked for a grantor grantee index and search. Clerk printed the last 10 years. No new filings. She added me to their fraud alert list. A real one, not a link. I brought donuts back to the counter because people who stamp reality deserve sugar. Miles kept stacking proof. Counseling attendance, utility confirmations, pay stubs. He texted, promotion to shift lead, 25C bump, schedule stable. I wrote, stable in the margin, and asked for his new shift grid. He sent it with the rent fund total. $3,040. Find 3 apartments you'd pick if money or distance changed, I said. We don't decide in a corner. On Friday, the property manager from his building called me. Odd. Ms. Coleman, your son listed you as an emergency contact. A person named Avery left a message at our office asking for his unit number. I felt the switch flip. No release, I said. Police report on file. If she appears, call 911 and state there's a no contact order. I sent the manager Bennett's card and our case number. Bennett warned patrol and flagged Avery's name with dispatch. The web tightened. Saturday, I ran a home systems drill. With Miles. He arrived at 9:00. I set a timer to sign 20 minutes. And handed him a card. Water shut off, gas shut off, breaker for kitchen, breaker for furnace, main clean-out cap. He found each, labeled each, and texted himself the map with photos. We reset the furnace from a fake lockout. He boiled water, made coffee, and put the kettle back where it lives. Systems, not speeches. 2 days later, Mrs. Whitaker caught a man photographing my meter. He claimed, utility audit. I asked for an ID at the door camera. He flashed a laminated nothing. I told him to stand by for verification and called the Kuntz Utilities Field Office. No audit scheduled. I quoted trespass in the camera's recording light. He left. I sent the clip to Bennett. She pulled stills and sent a cruiser past the address on the van. That name won't circle back soon. court wakes, he arrived for the criminal case's preliminary hearing. The DA called me to prep. Answer only what's asked. If the defense asks about family dynamics, stick to documents and dates. In court, Bennett's photos and the notary's statement did the heavy lifting. The judge found probable cause. On all counts, trial set for spring. The defense floated a plea. The DA said he'd talk later. I wrote, spring, trial, or plea, in my ledger and drew a box around it. Back home, the insurance discount for sensors posted. I bought 2 more, synced them, and installed a water bug under the fridge. Catherine Liu emailed, "Nice work. This file reads like a training manual." I printed that line and slid it into insurance comms. When a pro says you keep a tight ship, you keep the sentence. Mid-month, I tested a different boundary. Miles's ask. He texted a listing with sunlight and hardwood floors. Bigger. 20 minutes closer. They want first plus last plus deposit. I can cover it if I get a short loan. I'll pay back in 2 checks. I called him. No loans, I said. You can pay it, or you pick the apartment you can pay. If you take the sharper place, you cut discretionary and build a 2-month buffer by summer. Send your math. He sent a spreadsheet that worked without my help. He picked the second place. Smaller, cheaper, near the bus. He kept the buffer growing. That's a man plan, not a son plea. A week before the civil filing deadline, Avery's attorney tried an off-record call to Reuben. Can we round this with a mutual walkaway? Reuben's answer was 1 sentence. We have a signed settlement and a confession of judgment. Perform. Silence returned. Good. I hosted a block night sum in the driveway. Folding chairs, hot cocoa in a thermos, a laminated poster. What a real contractor says, what a scammer says. Bennett stopped by in plain clothes and answered questions. Catherine Liu waved from the curb. Mr. Whitaker talked about the audit guy and laughed in a way that meant the neighborhood's back awake. The last test came sideways. A glossy envelope addressed to the estate of Harold Coleman. Arrived at my P.O. box with a "We buy houses for cash" 1-pager and a sign here to expedite strip. I brought it to the recorder. Fishing, the clerk said, and clipped it to their bulletin board of junk. I added, estate scams, to my tab and wrote a 1-line template. The estate is closed. Cease mailings. I mailed it to the return address, certified. On the last Thursday of the month, I ran the Kashu quarter drill at my kitchen table. 3 columns. Sell. Rent. Stay so. Under semi. Sell mine. I wrote, clean title, stable roof, no buyer contingencies involving quick closes or signable wholesales. Under Saben. Rent size sem. Home warranty, vetted property manager, code compliant locks, reserve fund, separate P.O. box, no family tenants. Under Psych same. Sustained sense. Maintenance cadence, cash cushion, porch paint, annual audit, lock schedule. I didn't circle 1. You don't circle under fatigue. Miles arrived with his own list titled Spring Sem. Finish envelope buffer to Cypherum. 5,000. Apply for night classes. Ask for the Saturday shift differential. Keep counseling till June. He put a brown envelope on the table. Rent fund deposit slip. Utilities. Lease copy. With serials. Photofilmers ahomaris of the new smoke detector in his hall lit green. No speeches. We ate chili. He washed and dried. He left his spare key on the hook labeled Miles, spare, and tapped it once like a promise. At 9:40 p.m., my phone buzzed. Bennett again. Quick update. DA offered Avery a plea with probation, plus restitution, plus felony deferred, if she takes accountability and completes a fraud class. If she declines, we go to trial. I wrote, plea window, 45 days, and closed the book. I checked the porch camera, set the alarm, and stood in the dark kitchen looking at a refrigerator door that holds one pen and no orders. System steady, chain tight. If a storm comes, I flip to the page that tells me which breaker to pull and which lock to change. If a person tries to make my house a story again, the only story they'll meet is the one printed in black ink with tab dividers. Dates, documents, decisions. Part 6. Plea clocks and fire drills. The plea window started like a kitchen timer. Quiet, definite. Reuben marked. Day 145 Voss on my ledger and underlined it twice. No calls. If the DA wants a victim statement, we deliver facts under 200 words. That's it. I nodded and moved to the next box on my list. Wills and directives. If this house taught me anything, it's that paperwork is a lock. Monday, I sat with Attorney Morrow, updated my will, named Gloria, as medical proxy, and drafted a fresh, limited power of attorney that sleeps until I say, wake. We added a line that would make Miles executor only after a year of clean compliance. No surprises, no pressure. I left with a neat folder and a small fireproof safeguards for the hall closet. Deed copy, flash drive, directives went in. Code changed, written twice, tucked where only Gloria can find it. Day 6. A letter arrived. Creamstock, courthouse seal, DA requesting a victim impact statement. I sat at the table and wrote it like a mechanic's estimate. Between April and September, Ms. Rhodes attempted to seize access to my home and accounts through forged documents. I incurred costs for locks, roof emergency, furnace service, legal counsel, and time. I request restitution per receipts, a 1-year no-contact order, and completion of a fraud prevention course. I do not request incarceration beyond what is necessary to ensure compliance and public safety. Reuben read it and nodded. Strong. No adjectives. We filed it the same day. Day 9. Brought heat, literally. Mrs. Whitaker called at 7 to 18 p.m. Smell of gas by your fence. I grabbed my go folder. Shut our outside valve and walked the line with a spray bottle. Bubbles bloomed near the meter. I called the utility emergency number. Miles arrived with a flashlight and stood back like we practiced. Truck in 14 minutes. The tech dug, patched a pinhole service tee, and swapped the meter gasket. He tagged it safe and left a yellow copy. I scanned it to insurance, gas, and logged 758, restored. Systems beat panic every time. Day 12, tidal fishing tried a new costume. Urgent, quitclaim deed enclosed. A pre-filled form with my name and a stamped return envelope to a P.O. box in Nevada. I drove to the recorder again, asked for the clerk by name, and filed a fraud alert note on my parcel index. The clerk stapled the fake to their wall of shame. I added quitclaim scam to my vectors tab and drafted a 1-page guide for the block. County offices never ask you to mail a deed to a private P.O. box. Detective Bennett forwarded it to her community liaison. Day 14. Day meeting, small room, humming light. The prosecutor outlined the offer. Felony deferred. Year of probation. Restitution. On our civil amount, fraud class, 150 hours community service. No contact 1 year. Violation equals immediate conviction. If she accepts, first payment in 30 days, he said. If not, trial. Reuben's pencil made one small check. When we left the elevator, Avery Weiss, Was in the hall with her public defender, wrists free, GPS blinking. She didn't see me. I stepped behind a column and watched the door instead of her face. Back home, I wrote, plea on table, answer in 10 mem, and shut the book. Day 16. Miles hit $3,600 in his buffer. He texted a night class registration receipt, accounting 10 centime. Tuesdays and Thursdays, 6 to 8 p.m. Shift lead stuck. His schedule tightened like a drum. He sent his new budget without me asking, and I circled 2 lines. Emergency fund target $5,000 by May, and move-out buffer maintained. Hold those, I texted. He replied with a thumbs up and a photo of his stove clock reading 6ing. His way of saying, on time. Day 18. An email from an insurance adjuster offered to pre-approve a kitchen payout if I clicked Verify Damage Photos. I forwarded it to Catherine Liu. Spoof, she wrote back in 2 minutes. She added more MFA to my portal and put a human note on my account. No disbursements without in-person signature. I printed that and taped it to my binder. Day 20. The fire drill wasn't mine. It was the up next door duplex. Siren at 11:14 p.m. Smoke from a pan flash. I met Miles at the curb and ran our block plan. He killed power to the neighbor's porch from their exterior shutoff, while I banged on doors with Gloria. Firemen arrived, laughed at the charred noodles, and still checked the attic. I filed the incident number under Frau's. Block incidents, and added 1 line to my card. Meet engines at corner, bring keys, keep crowd off hydrant. Small towns survive on the right sentences. Day 22. Call from the DA. She'll take the plea. I wrote, accepted in black ink, and drew a line to T plus 30, first restitution check. The judge formalized it the next morning. Avery faced forward and answered in a flat voice. Yes, Your Honor. I faced the clock. 10:06. Order entered. The same afternoon, Avery's attorney tried to tuck in a mutual non-disparagement letter. Rubin slid it back. Criminal orders govern. We're not swapping gags. Done. Day 25. Civil settlements, first installment. Missed its soft date. Rubin filed the confession of judgment. We negotiated at mediation. Sheriff served her employer on day 27 Mise. Wages garnishment started. Day 33 I don't chase. I file. Day 28. I ran a quarter-hour purge. In the house, 1 drawer, 1 shelf, 1 stack of papers. Out went 3 half-dead flashlights and a cracked phone charger. In went fresh batteries, inventory cards. Boredom invites chaos. Lists keep hands busy. Day 30. Envelope from the court. Restitution schedule. Printed. First payment posted to an escrow. It would hit my account after the clerk's 5-day hold. I didn't hover. I added, restitution. Reconcile monthly. To my calendar and underlined. Report any miss within 24 hours. Now 32. Miles asked, not for money, but for criteria. 2 co-workers want a place. Thinking of splitting a 3-bedroom. What's the test? I texted back in bullets. Same shift windows. Written roommate agreement. Separate food. 1 person holds utilities. Others auto pay. 2-month emergency fund before move. No overnight guests in a lease under a year. He sent a photo of a blank roommate contract he'd downloaded, and I caught myself almost smiling. Almost. Day 34. The fur roof warranty card. Returned stamped registered. Keller's drone did the 90-day pass. No heat bleed. Ridge true. I moved. Roof furrower to the back of the binder and put porch paint at the front. I scheduled 2 dry days and bought a gallon the color Harold called barn door red. He's been gone years, but his word for colors outlives the man. Day 36. Title scam, round 3. A text saying, "Your deed delivered for recording. Approved fee $149." With a short link. I drove to the recorder again. The clerk didn't roll her eyes. She stamped, "No changes," and added my number to their direct line list. I left a box of donuts again. Respect isn't free. You pay it forward. Day 38. Gloria and I ran our SHIU 2-woman audit. Smoke detectors chirp test, extinguisher gauge check, gutter screws snug, shed inventory labeled. We separated. Auction. Donate. Keep signs. From Harold's chest. I kept the plumb bob that still swings true. I posted the rest on the community board. The kid from Maple Garage bought a box of wrenches for $20 and a promise to actually use them. Day 40. Miles's buffer crossed. 4,600 years. He sent a photo of his envelope boxes, bands tight, labels straight. He added a line to his budget. Legal envelope, $25 mo until case closed. Mine, not yours. That wasn't required. It still mattered. Day 41. The first restitution. Cleared to my account. I transferred it straight into house, reserve. Not donuts, not drapes. I texted Ruben. Received, and scanned the clerk's remittance slip to the tab. He replied with a period. That's his version of satisfaction. Day 43. Church lady reappeared with softer eyes. "You were right," she said near the canned tomatoes. "Boundaries aren't meanness." I nodded at the green beans. Because sermons bore me and results don't. Day 44. I stood in my kitchen with a brush and painted the porch rail the red Harold named. Between coats, I drafted March's decision sheet. Sell got comps and a list of clean buyers. Rent got 3 managers' names and fee schedules. Stay got a calendar. Filters, gutters, sensors, audits, drills. I didn't circle yet. Picking with a hot head is how you choose the wrong storm. Day 45. The plea clock ended with the same quiet it began. Chain tight, orders signed, first payment in, locks changed twice since fall, systems humming. Miles knocked at 7 with stew in a thermos, and the last 2 screws for the back gate hinge in his palm. We drove them home together. 1, 2, seat the hinge, test the swing. He set the drill down and didn't say a word about the past. Good. We're building forward. I rinsed the brush, set the cherry magnet back on an empty refrigerator door, and wrote the next 3 lines in square hand. April. Protective order review, drone roof check, porch cure. May. Miles to $5,000, class midterm, apartment check. June. Decision on house, if stay, book paint, if rent, book manager, if sell, book photographer. Timers matter, but only if you listen when they ring. Mine did. I turned off the porch light with a finger that doesn't shake and locked the door from the inside, because that's the direction that counts. Part 7. Decision sheets and quiet doors. April started with the kaite. Protective order review. Ruben met me outside courtroom 2C at 9 Sai. No speeches, just Bennett's log of Avery's pings, the DM she'd tried to sneak through a new account, and the wage garnish ledger. The judge extended no contact to 18 months. GPS boundaries unchanged. I wrote XT 18 in black ink and walked out before anyone decided to make eye contact into a scene. At home, I ran April like a factory. Drone. Over the roof, ridge true. Porch rail cured hard. Oil stain fully set. I reset the Warquarter drill. Filters, sensors, extinguisher pins, breaker labels reprinted. Gloria and I timed a 2-minute door-to-car war with the Go folder. We hit 1:31 on the second run. We put the time on a post-it where panic likes to sit. The block got louder with spring. 2 new kids with clipboards tried the "We're with permits" line. I met them on the porch with my laminated poster. Real versus scam. They backpedaled to the sidewalk, shoes too clean for work. Bennett added their faces to a file that keeps our alley dull. Miles sent steady proofs, counseling attendance, pay stubs, night class midterm. 88. His buffer clicked to 5,020 on May 3rd. He texted a photo of the envelope stack with bands even. I circled May, $5,000, on my sheet and wrote a single word, hold a sane. A letter arrived from the court with a schedule. Restitution. Posting monthly review in September. I made a recurring reminder. Reconcile by the 5th, and opened a fresh tab labeled When It Misses. It didn't miss in April or May. Mid-May, I did the apartment check. With Miles. Smoke alarms chirped, hall light on a timer, locks tight, roommates' names on the lease where they belong. Roommate agreement. Signed with real ink. Utilities auto-paid from one account with 2 backups. I taped a spare key in a small envelope under his sink with "Do not move" across the flap. He grinned at the label. It's how we do warmth around here. Them a pressure test. Came sideways, a postcard that looked like county tax, except the barcode mapped to a Kansas print shop. Delinquent. Call to avoid lien. I drove to the treasurer's window and asked for my parcel printout. 0 due, 0 late. The clerk leaned forward. They're hitting everyone this month. I wrote, postcard fish, May, and dropped a copy of my 1-page guide at the bulletin board. Sugar for staff, again. By June, decision day needed a place on a calendar, not a mood. I set it for June 20th, 10, and spent the weeks building the only thing that talks sense to fear. Criteria. If sell, clean title confirm day of with recorder. 3 bids from buyers who close with bank funds. No assignments. Possession date that gives me 21 days. Float. Cash held in my bank, not theirs. Rent back optional, in writing. Attorney at signing. No mobile notary in a parking lot. If rent, property manager with real storefront, 911 friendly. Lease, no verbal add-ons. Annual inspection schedule. Emergency clause defines emergency. Reserve fund. 6 months. Expenses in-house. Reserve. Repairs under $500 auto-approved. Over requires my yes. Locks and smoke detectors to current code. Photo log every turnover. Never to family. Especially never to family. If stay. Annual audits. Insurance, roof, sensors. Maintenance cadence on the wall. Porch paint every other year. Gutters every fall. Furnace service pre-winter. Systems, not speeches, posted on the inside of the cleaning closet where I can see it when boredom tries to write dramas. I printed comps, interviewed 3 managers, and walked 3 clean buyer showings in plain shoes and a plain jacket. One buyer slid a little addendum for assignability. I slid it back and said one word, no, until he stopped smiling. One manager tried to fold in a, we pick the contractor and keep 15%. Also, no. The third manager, Fleck Realty, answered with checklists and keys on a pegboard. Their broker handed me a sample monthly report without perfume words. I kept their card. June 12th, the called. Avery had completed 2 fraud classes. 26 hours, community service. Logged, restitution auto-deduct stable. If she finishes on time, he said, it stays deferred. Good, I said. Which is not the same as forgiven. I filed deferral on track and got back to screws and paint. On June 17th, I met Catherine Liu at the house for my annual insurance audit. She walked through like the pro she is, tablet tapping, water sensors online, gas tag current, extinguishers green. "You understand, Ms. Coleman," she said, "that most people don't do this." I shrugged. "Most people tape lists to fridges that don't belong to them." She laughed once, quick. We set the discount, shook hands, and I wrote, "Audit, passed, where it belongs." June 20th, 10 size. Decision morning. I made eggs, turned the radio low, and set 3 folders on the table. Sell, rent, stay. With a cherry magnet holding a pen on the fridge like a tiny red sun. Gloria arrived with coffee, but not advice. We read the 3 lists aloud. We did not reminisce. We did not consult ghosts. We checked boxes with present tense pens. Sell gave me money and movement I don't need this minute. Rent gave me income and management I don't love dealing with, even with flex pegboard. Stay gave me quiet systems, cash I already control, and a porch that smells like oil in summer. I picked the one that wasn't about proving anything to anyone. I circled. Stay, 12 months, and wrote the conditions underneath it like an engineer. Keep house reserve. At 6 months minimum. Deposit all restitution there until September review. Book Fleck Realty. As on-call only for emergencies while I build my rent-ready file, photos, disclosures, turnover checklist. No showings. No, just seeing what we could get. No, maybe later this fall. Revisit in June next year. With fresh comps, fresh eyes, same 3 folders. We signed it like a contract, me and Gloria as witness. I slid sell and rent into the safe. Stay went on the fridge under the cherry. At noon, Miles knocked, not to argue the circle, but to bring a step stool and an accounting workbook. He set it on the counter, tapped the cover, and said, "Midterm was good. Finals in 2 weeks." Then he put his keys in the bowl, rolled up his sleeves, and climbed to clean the fan shroud like it was a lab practical. After, he set a small brown envelope on the table. Proof of rent fund, plus summer budget, plus class schedule. No apology, no scrapbook. He fixed a door closer that had a lazy swing, wiped his hands, and said, "Need anything else?" I gave him a new job. Teach a neighbor our shutoffs. Pick someone who'll actually remember. He nodded. Systems spread, or they die. 2 days later, a man in a bright polo tried a last season vector. "We buy houses. We can close in 7 days." I met him on the porch with my no soliciting sign in one hand and Bennett's card in the other. "Door-to-door real estate is banned on this block," I said, and watched his smile drop like a loose hinge. He left. I wrote Polo, June, and mulched the tomatoes. On June 28th, the class final came back. Who? Miles sent a photo of the grade and a picture of a cheap dinner he cooked in a clean pan. "Accounting fits," he texted. "Who knew?" I wrote, "Who knew?" under Miles, Springham, and underlined, "Fits." Then I moved on to filters, due July. The last day of June, the house was ordinary. Porch rail dry, paint neat, roof tight, ledger up to date, go folder sealed, locks that answer to me and me alone. I stood in the kitchen with the light off, watched the window hold the evening like a bowl, and listened to nothing loud. The refrigerator door wore 1 cherry magnet and a list with 3 bullets for July. Gutters after the first storm. Furnace service schedule. Call. Miles's fall class registration. No hero lines, no curtain speeches. Just dates, documents, decisions. The kind that hold when people don't. If you came by tomorrow, you'd see a porch with red rails, a door that closes without drama, a fridge that doesn't carry anyone else's orders, and a ledger with tabs that bite down like good clamps. You'd see a woman who knows where the shutoffs are, where the deed sits, and where the cherry magnet belongs. Staying isn't surrender. It's a choice with screws in it. And this house, brick by brick, form by form, answers to that. Part 8, ledger closed, door quiet. July moved like a tape measure, straight, marked, no drama. First storm hit on the 9th, gutters ran clean, downspouts clear. I called the furnace shop and booked ye pre-winter service for October 10th, 9 a.m. The appointment card went in the binder and on the fridge under the cherry. Miles registered. Fall, accounting 102, Tuesdays, Thursdays. Buffer held at my fine $200. After rent and bills. He sent his syllabus in a work grid that fit the bus. I added one line to our standing rule. No overtime that collides with class. He replied with a thumbs up and a photo of his clock showing. 5:59. On time is a language we both speak now. August tags. The DA emailed a midterm. Avery's hours, 9-150, fraud class done, no contact clean, wages garnish on schedule. I filed deferral, stable. And moved on. That same week, a plain envelope arrived from the court, restitution ledger. Through July matched my spreadsheet to the dollar. I reconciled, initialed, and transferred the month's payment to Chai, House Reserve. That account crossed 6.5 months of expenses. Systems make calm. Math keeps it. Mid-August, I ran the C. Summer audit. Sensors online, fire extinguishers in the green, porch rails nick-free, shedlock snug, breaker map laminated anew. Gloria shaved, 4 seconds. Off our door-to-car drill. 1:27. We put the time on a sticky above the keys. We don't chase fear. We prepare until fear gets bored. A contractor flyer came back around. Roof refresh, with a QR code and a discount. I scanned it on a burner tablet. Out-of-state shell. I marked. Scam, ugh. On the block sheet and slid copies through doors with Bennett's card at the bottom. 2 houses called to thank me. Good. A neighborhood that answers its own door with documents doesn't see many clipboards twice. September 5th. Review hearing for restitution. I wore the same black jacket, same notebook. The clerk read numbers. Judge nodded. On track. No speeches. I wrote, on track, 9-5, and left. On the 12th, I walked Miles's apartment again. Smoke alarms chirped, roommate chart posted, cashboard full, lease copy in a sleeve by the pantry. He'd added, quiet hours, 10-7. On the fridge for the roommates, consensus, not decree. He pointed to a new habit, once a month money night, where they tally and reset. He handed me a single page. Monthly budget. No leaks. Emergency fund line ticked up. 50 ounce. I circled it. He didn't ask for praise. He adjusted the stove leg that had loosened and wrote the date on a strip of masking tape inside the cabinet. That's how you keep chaos from renting a room. October 10th, 9 a.m. Furnace tech on time. New nozzle, fresh filter, CO test clean. Sticker on the unit, invoice scanned to Avas. I swapped all the PA smoke detector batteries and wrote the month on each with a Sharpie. Winter won't get to say I didn't call first. A week later, a letter hit my P.O. box addressed to the heirs of Iris Coleman. Different scam, same idea. Cash offer, avoid probate. I dropped it on the recorder's counter. The clerk added it to their wall of shame and taped a candy bar to my receipt. We've become each other's people. That's how cities stay livable. November 3rd. DA again. Avery at 48 to 150 Gom. Hours, restitution current, counseling letter filed. The court set final review for December 8. I wrote Sun 12-8, final, and underlined it twice. That afternoon, a kitchen company tried holiday remodel with a fake approval code. Catherine Liu flagged it, and the email bounced into her training deck. I added, vector, seasonal pitch, to my tab. If fraud learns seasons, so do we. Thanksgiving was square. Miles brought rolls and the mom rent fund slip-eyed for his own place, buffer steady. After dishes, we ran the congenerator drill. For the block, extension cords, CO alarms, fuel stabilizer. Mr. Whitaker managed the plug-in order like a band leader. When the lights came back on, we ate pie under bulbs that don't buzz. December started with porch paint touch-ups. On a dry afternoon, a check of the de-icer, and a swap took a winter door. Sweep. I printed my year-end audit house checklist and laid out files for one last reconcile. Bank, insurance, utilities, court. December 8th. Final review. We stood again. Me, Reuben, DA. Avery appeared in street clothes, GPS off, posture stiff. The judge read the ledger, the hours, the class certificates. Deferred felony remains deferred. Case to close upon final payment, he said. No contact remains through next September. I wrote, close, pending last, and left through a side door. No eye contact, no script. December 15th. The last restitution hit. Clerk posted at 10:14 a.m. My phone buzzed. I moved it to House Reserve and wrote restitution complete, 12:15 in square letters. I sent a one-word text to Reuben. Done. He answered with a period. That's how people like us celebrate. Punctuation. I closed the civil binder with 3 actions. 1. Thank you notes. Detective Bennett, Catherine Liu, recorder's desk, the judge's clerk. Short, factual, signed with a pen that doesn't smear. 2. Block memo. Holiday contractor scams. 3 bullets, 1 number to call. 3. Archive. Scan and store to the fireproof safe. Keep paper originals for deeds and orders only. Then I built a final piece I should have had years ago. The house book. White spine, labeled tabs. Deed and will. Insurance and audits. Utilities and shutoffs. Maintenance cadence. Emergencies and drills. Scams and vectors. Court, closed. Neighbors and numbers. Inside the front cover, I taped 2 sentences in big print. Systems, not speeches. Dates, documents, decisions. I handed a copy of the index to Gloria and one to Miles. If I'm ever on the floor or on a plane, I said, this book runs the house. They didn't argue. They nodded like people who've watched me turn panic into checklists and prefer it that way. The last week of the year, I did the small things nobody claps for. Cleaned the lint trap and the dryer's duct. Vacuumed behind the fridge. Replaced the back doors. Pushed screws with our force, like the strike plate likes. Wrote filter Jan Alpha Masim on the calendar and reset the porch light for early dusk. I sharpened pencils and slid 3 fresh pens under the cherry magnet. The fridge door reflected a woman who doesn't perform her safety. She practices it. Miles finished. Accounting 102. With a 91. He texted a picture of a cheap celebratory dinner and a bus pass renewed through March. No declarations. He added 50 to his emergency fund and sent the screenshot. We ate stew on Sunday. No speeches. and he fixed the doorbell chime that had a lazy echo. When he left, he tapped the key hook twice. Rituals are just systems with memory. Anarfim. December 31st, 11:58 p.m. I stood at my sink with the radio low and the porch light on a timer. The ledger sat open to a blank January page. I wrote 3 lines. January 10th. Furnace filter. Sensor test. Recorder check. March. Roof drone. Audit schedule set. June 20th. Revisit. Stay sell. Rent with fresh eyes. No fog. No poetry. Just the next right screws. If you want a moral from me, you'll get hardware instead. Let paper carry weight your voice shouldn't. Put locks where trust fails and calendars where memory brags. When a stranger writes rules for your fridge, answer with a co-ledger, a co-lawyer, and a co-locksmith. Don't chase. File. Don't rage. Record. Don't hope. Schedule. I set the cherry magnet straight and turned off the kitchen light. The door locked from the inside with a solid click, the kind you can feel in the bones you built, with someone who knew how to set a line level and mean it. The house didn't sigh or sing. It held. Ledger closed. Door quiet. System loaded for the morning.